Hello, YouTube. We're alive.
We're alive. We have a pretty new layout. It's been a long day. We got back from Iowa, but boy, do we have a hell of a show.
Hell of a show. And some of us are happy. Some of us might not be.
And if you aren't subscribed and you're watching this, what are you doing?
Agreed. Subscribe. Like.
Thank you.
All right. Buddy. Lot going on. Hey, Kayce.
Hi.
How's your hand/face?
I forgot that it happened after the day that has been. That's actually not true. I've been thinking about it a lot. If my hand wasn't there, I might have been just straight up KO'd.
Yeah. It was something.
I'm gonna, we talked about this on the Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
It's just a completely different feeling not being able to drink when your team sucks ass. It's not like, I can't even put words to it, how different a loss feels with no self-medication whatsoever.
The thing is, college football is the most humbling sport because a loss or two losses matter so much. Reality's coming for all of us every single year, except for one team. Reality hit hard for a lot of teams today, a lot of teams. And after your morning or your afternoon of being in Iowa, dodging high noon cans thrown at a high rate of speed, I'm not sure you deserved what you got when you got home to see the end of Texas A&M.
I would like to agree with you. I don't think I deserved it at all. However, maybe the can smacking me in the side of the face was just a precursor for what this day was going to come. Like maybe at that point, I should have just said, I should chalk this whole day up as an L. I have to accept it. And not only do I have to accept it, I can't do anything about it. I have to just sit in sobriety and feel this shit.
So you're saying when the can hit you in the face, the video could have paused and you would be like, hi, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here or what's going to happen in my life. Well, it's going to be really shitty.
Yeah, just for like this day. Yeah, no, we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about, including our trip to Iowa, including reality, reality check Saturday for a lot of teams. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's have a show. Oh, by the way, hi, Jack and Katie.
Hello.
Hey.
All right.
Jack, I love the man bun. I can't get enough of it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. It. I think it's so great.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's get right to it right now. Let's do a podcast. Good evening and welcome to, or good morning or good afternoon, whenever you choose to listen to this, good whatever that is. Welcome to Unnecessary Roughness Barstool's College Football Podcast, brought to you by High Noon Hard Seltzer. Katie and Jack are back in the studio right now, and she is patting the tailgate pack with the pear and the cranberry and the delicious flavors in that. We were on the road today, and we saw a lot of high noons out in the wild. Most of them were responsibly handled. Some were not, but it was still a delightful time to see high noons out in the wild.
Yeah, it was really cool. At one point, I think Dan did a cheers in the crowd. And usually we see and I actually hate using this word, but it's the only word that's coming to my brain, so I'm going to use it, a spattering of high noons. But today it was majority. There was there's some other beer and I didn't see any other seltzers. Everybody was holding up that blue and white can at one time today. And that was really cool to see.
Indeed, high noon is the absolute best. All right, week 2. This is our second recap. And this one I think is going to be a lot more, I don't know if in-depth is a word, but there's a lot more meat on the bone to discuss this week than there was last week. Last week we had college football back for the first time in 8 months. We had, Florida beating Utah. We had a couple things to talk about, but this week, oh boy, we got coaches possibly getting fired. We got teams who thought they were going to be good getting that reality check I talked about. We have teams taking a step forward. We have so many things. I don't even know where to start, but I guess it makes sense. Yes, Kayce?
Before you go any further, because I know where you're going to start and I know what's about to happen.
You don't know where I'm going to start. You don't know when I'm going to start.
I don't.
No.
Okay, well, before you say anything, I want to comment on what I think that you said, that you think this episode has a lot more meat on the bone. I
Yeah,
also feel like, which you're 100% right. And I mean, I know you don't want to talk about it too much, but Mississippi State is currently playing right now.
correct.
So we, as this podcast goes on, we will also still be evolving with how
Yeah.
this day is going to go. But not only do I think we have more to talk about tonight, I feel like the difference between our reaction right now at midnight versus the episode on Tuesday, like the digestion period is going to be also crazy.
I think what the happenings of tonight will marinate for a few days, and we will have a different product on Tuesday. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And I'm not going to start with your team. I'm going to start in Iowa City, Iowa, because we were there yesterday. And Kayce, people probably want to hear from us about what it was like if they watched it. If you didn't watch it, I think it was the single wildest Barstool college football show we've ever had. It was it was something. And
Dangerous.
I'll turn it over to you, Kayce. Like, what did it look like from your point of view?
We've been doing this now for a long time, and I've always said that, I've done live TV my entire career, and live TV is a whole different animal, but Barstool live TV is clearly even more different because there's no rules. I usually am completely fine no matter what is thrown at me. My brain stays put, everything is fine no matter what's going on. This was the first in 5 years of doing this now, the first show that I completely blacked out as soon as things started going haywire and just went on autopilot. And that's like, and that's not, I'm not like bragging about that. Like that clear, like I got through that show on some sort of autopilot in my brain once the can started flying at us. So when we got onto the bus afterwards and all the producers were like, how'd you feel like the show was? Like, I had to look at Dan and be like, how was that show? Like, I know how crazy the crowd was, and I saw how many people were there, and I know we were getting great reactions, and I know we didn't screw anything up. Other than that, you could tell me that I said the sky was purple at one point and I would have believed you. So
Yeah.
I don't really know. Like, I just know that I got hit in the face with a can and people hate you, and that Dan and Dave went dad mode. That's about it.
Well, here's the thing, and this is, since I've been here 3 years now, I've told y'all, I've tried to tell you that Iowa fans are just a big collection of pieces of shit, and they're assholes. And they can wave to kids and make themselves feel good and try to bang you over the head and say how great they are. But when you get down to it and push comes to shove, they're fucking idiots and assholes. And like the show started, see, the clip that went viral is me saying, yelling at them and saying, throw it at me, you're going to miss, throw it at me, you're going to miss. And then you end up getting hit. But the show started with Dan and Dave. They were like, oh yeah, I bet y'all won't throw stuff at Brandon Walker. And they were just kind of kidding, right? And
Definitely.
then 2 or 3 people threw something, 2 or 3, and then by the time I stood up, like they never would stop. And Dan and Dave had to say, y'all got to stop, y'all got to fucking stop. And they just kept throwing and kept throwing and kept throwing and kept throwing. And Iowa fans, they deserve what happened to them yesterday, and fuck them forever. Forever.
I was about to say, this is a little bit of a spoiler, Brandon, but I will be joining you later on in the show. One of our things that we do here on our reaction podcast, we have a certain list.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go full rant right now because I want to save the way that I really feel about what we experienced in Iowa City today for my shit list rant. So if you're listening to this and you're an Iowa fan and you're sensitive, you probably should just plug your ears and go the fuck to sleep. What I loved seeing was, people reacting. First of all, like, I don't, you and I talked about this. Like, I don't blame you or Dan or Dave for getting hit. Like, that's just kind of part of the casualties of war. But what I thought was really funny is people like, well, what do you think? You're riling up college kids and they're drunk. We've done this in a million places. And even when Dave walked out in East Lansing last year with 2 middle fingers, he had 1 beer thrown at him. And as soon as it hit him in the chest, there were no more thrown. Like, we've had beer showers before, which I'm totally okay with that. Like, whatever, who cares? If your hair gets wet, my makeup runs, I don't care about that. We've never experienced what we experienced today. And we've had Dave at his rival with his middle fingers up in the middle of the air. We've gone millions and millions of different ways on these shows that could piss people off. And I've just never seen anything like it. With all that being said, like I said, I'm saving my rant. unbelievable crowd. And I mean,
Yeah.
Iowa City was popping. I didn't, we fly in, fly out, so we don't get to see. Like, I was so impressed with their tailgate scene, with the scene around Kinnick. And so the people that weren't involved in being in pieces of shit, like, I'm really happy I got to experience that. But for the social media crowd that's like, well, what do you think is going to happen? Like, well, no, that doesn't happen. Like, you don't see that literally anywhere else we've gone.
Well, also, I really need a pro wrestling podcast because I am the best wrestling heel in the game. Like when it's time to play the bad guy, Brandon Walker knows what to do.
You did play into it quite a bit.
Of course I did. I told you I was going to do it.
I know.
That.
Yeah.
Well, but that's where the difference between like entertainment and playing into it and like getting out of control is. And again, I've been in college. I know how crazy things can get. I'm sitting here trying to absorb how crazy it was. Like when you look back at the clip where Brandon, you played it so well. You like stood up and you're like, come on. And like, you're ducking, bobbing and weaving, which was so funny. When you hear Dave's voice, like change from like El Presidente, Dave Portnoy, to just like straight up like friend Dave. And he's like, all right, like this needs to stop. That's when the key to me was like, oh, this shit is actually like gone past Brandon being the heel. Not to mention, there were actually people who had nothing to do with on stage that actually were affected by what happened. We don't need to get into that, but Brandon, congratulations. If you ever lose your job at Barstool Sports, you are going straight towards a WWE.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And also congratulations because you're wearing an Iowa State shirt and they finally won.
There's never been a doubt about that. All right. Now, there's so many teams we're going to talk about. One of them is Texas A&M. One of them is Wisconsin. One of them is Notre Dame. One of them is Florida. One of them is Iowa. We're going to talk about all these teams. I think all these teams had a very big reality check on Saturday. We also have some teams with some big wins we got to talk about, like the Kentucky Wildcats, like the USC Trojans, like the Arkansas Razorbacks, like the Kansas Jayhawks. We're going to talk about all those, like the Tennessee Volunteers. I think we got to start, though, in Austin, Texas, which coming into the day, that was the biggest game of the day. And how rare is it in college football where the biggest game of the day actually turns out to be the biggest game of the day? So many things happened. Jack?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, nobody was more right than us for sure.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts on this game, and I'm sure we'll get into all of them. But I mean, Alabama and the players doing horns down, the fans. I was with Travi. I knew immediately what they were going to say. Every Nick Saban team that's won a national championship has had a tough road game.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So here's that deal. Because I told them last week, I was like, y'all just assume Alabama's going to kill everybody. You just assume that because it's Alabama on the jersey. Well, guess what? They don't do that. And they got out there and they struggled. Now, what's weird about this, several things to talk about, including Quinn Ewers in a second. What's weird about this is it's the most undisciplined Nick Saban team we've ever seen. 15 penalties for 100 yards. And then after your 1-point victory, you're throwing horns down. You say a lot of things about Saban, man, but he's usually buttoned down. He's usually got that thing humming. It's a machine. You don't see a lot of emotion. Like that's not the Alabama I'm used to, Kayce Smith.
Yeah, no, I mean, and not only having 15 penalties, I believe all 15 penalties were in 3 quarters too, which I mean, regardless is still crazy. But the way that Alabama kept themselves in that game closely, because there were so many different things that Texas did that didn't work or like that. It should have been a safety. I've watched that play over and over and over of Bryce Young getting sacked in the end zone. Like that should have been a safety. Little things like that. There were definitely missed calls, whatever. But overall, I mean, it was like Nick Saban had zero control over this team. But what's so baffling to me is just last week, Jack, you mentioned this. Like he has talked about how much he loves this team, like everything about this team. He's like glowing over, saying it was a rebuilding year last year and just everything about it. How do you go into week 2 with a team that you love so much? That's the most undisciplined team he's ever had at Alabama. That doesn't check out to me. That doesn't make sense. I
would imagine week 3 and week 4, Alabama is going to look starkly different because I just can't imagine a Nick Saban team repeating those mistakes. I come Monday, come tomorrow, I bet the practices at Alabama are going to be very, very interesting this week. Even
So, I mean, he had to have been pissed in the locker room at halftime, which everybody says, like, how much would you pay for a Nick Saban halftime locker room camera when they're losing or when it's close? I would pay a lot of money. But even for all of that was happening, I know it was an emotional win and obviously a last minute field goal and what Alabama had to do to even get into that position. But the fact that he's going out to the middle of the field to talk to Jenny Taft, talk to the sideline reporter, and he has to then say, don't do that shit with the horns down. He has to like verbally say it enough where he usually, can just shoot a player a look and they like quiver. Like that to me says there's a lot more going on right now. Maybe not, maybe it's just overreacting to it, but like he didn't have control.
From Texas' side, there's nothing fluky about what happened today. They were right there in yardage with Alabama, 376, I think, to like 350. It was very, very even. Alabama had 16 first downs. Texas had 25. Like Texas was there step for step. There was never a separation between the two teams. And that was with Quinn Ewers, who, by the way, looked absolutely fantastic. And then he gets hurt. Did you roll your eyes or you just looking up?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I have your game right in front of me. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
No rolling my eyes.
Okay. Quinn Ewers was great.
Yeah.
Then Hudson Card comes in. Hudson Card's not great, but the defense played well. Texas looked like a functional, good football team and played the best team in the country. Let me stop that. Played the best program in the country to a damn near draw. But they are the best program in the country because they can always wriggle off the hook. Bryce Young with an incredible play in the last drive after they fall down 19-17. Bryce Young drives them down the field. He's getting sacked. He ducks under it. He runs to the 17. They win the game. But a phenomenal statement for Texas, even though they didn't win the game. And I know people say, hey, we don't do moral victories or whatever. Yeah, I think you probably do, because you were losing to Kansas this time last year. Now you're going toe to toe with Nick Saban's ass.
Yeah. And I want to hear what Jack has to say, because Jack was actually the only one. And I know, Brandon, you said that you thought they would keep it within the number. Jack was like getting closer and closer to saying that he thought Texas may win the game, which was obviously a very realistic possibility. But the last thing that I want to say about Bryce Young before we get to the Texas side of things, you just mentioned it, that minute 29 that they had left on the clock and he drove the ball down to get them into field goal range. That to me was very much like, hey, this is why I won a Heisman Trophy. He had, granted the whole game didn't look that way, but like there are not a lot of quarterbacks in college that you have that confidence in. And as soon as you knew they had a minute and a half left, like I didn't think Alabama was going to for sure win, but there was definitely like a huge thing in my mind that was like, no, they're going to get within field goal range.
I think the highest compliment you can pay a player is one that we pay to Bryce Young right now. When they got the ball down 2 with a minute left, I knew they were going to win the game. Like that's just he was going to do something. He was going to be special, or at least like you said, the only way they're going to lose games is if they miss the field goal that he puts them in position for.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen with Alabama moving forward, but I do know that, like, say they go into the SEC and they get their shit together and they start beating everybody, whatever, like that could be a moment that you look back on. And the same thing with Joe Burrow in 2019, when you look at how LSU beat Texas then, like you could look at it and say, yeah, they didn't play a great game. Texas played a really, really good game. But Bryce Young was the reason that they were in the position when they needed to be in a vacuum with a minute 30 left.
I think today will be remembered forever. And now this was more about Texas than it was Alabama, because early in the season last year, Alabama went down to Florida. They won 31-29. That was an awful Florida team. They got their coach fired. They won by 2 points. Like, they do have this game every now and then. So Alabama's going to be fine. Like, Alabama's still Alabama. They're gonna go 11-1, 12-0. They're gonna be in the SEC championship game. They're gonna be in the playoff. I have no doubt about that. But Texas just stood toe to toe with a monster. And Katie, I know you and Jack have probably looked. I personally haven't heard on Quinn Ewers. I heard 2 weeks, perhaps.
I heard broken collarbone, and then I had a Viceroy.
I think broken collarbone was like in the immediate moments afterward where people were speculating. I don't think that ever came out like from an official reputable source. Jack, you got anything on that?
No, I would assume they probably will get. He probably got X-rays tonight. They'll talk about it tomorrow.
I see it.
You guys like. I would say the biggest thing about this game, in my opinion, was Alabama got incredibly lucky. There's really no other way to paint it. The safety situation was incredibly lucky. Texas missed a 20-yard field goal.
Mhm.
There was a lot of questionable pass interference calls in the first half in the back of the end zone on 3rd and goal when Quinn Ewers was still in on a drive that Quinn Ewers threw an amazing pass to Xavier Worthy. What are the chances that Xavier Worthy drops that ball again? That's another one that's just a situation where like they had 2 coin flips there and they landed on Alabama's side. And then they also barely beat a backup quarterback for Texas, who isn't the greatest backup quarterback in the world. Who isn't the worst backup quarterback in the world, because a lot of teams would love to have Hudson Card on their team, but he was playing on one leg.
Yeah. And he's not Quinn
And
Ewers.
Alabama barely beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, there was the pass interference call you mentioned in the left corner of the end zone. In Alabama's final drive, there was a holding call that was kind of ignored there, so Alabama could. But I always love it when national media, national people can watch an Alabama game closely that involves a non-SEC team and be like, "Oh wow, questionable calls going in Alabama's way. Questionable calls. Yeah, that's called playing in the SEC every goddamn year of my life." They got they got the best coaches, the best players, the best everything in the world, but they still get the most help from the officials. It's the craziest thing in fucking football that happens.
I said this was a great introductory kind of a what do they call it when you go to school early as a freshman? Orientation for Texas in the SEC, because it was an introduction of what every other SEC team has dealt with officials for the past however many years. And
they've got better players than you, and they're still going to get the calls. You just have to get used to it.
It always confuses me whenever you do hear the national media say that, because it's like, it's so egregious so many times that how would you not know that? It's like, it's almost like they have to say that. Like they feel like they have to be like, oh, like, I can't believe this is happening. It's like, everyone knows it's happening. Everybody knows these cards fall that way. But I think that, and credit to Texas, because you're right. I think this says way more about Texas than Alabama. Alabama will be fine. But the fact is like, Casey Thompson had to transfer because Hudson Card won the job last year. And him being a backup speaks to how good Quinn Ewers is. So we know that. So like, that's great that Texas has him available. I think that, like, if you're a Texas fan, I don't believe in moral victories, but I kind of do in this situation. Like, I feel like I'm being hypocritical because not only, I can sit here and fully admit, like, I thought Alabama was going to kick the shit out of them. The line, I think, closed at 20.5. Like, this was not a game that was just fluky that ended up being close. Texas should have won that game, not just because of bad calls, not just because of different situations with a backup quarterback. So I think you do look at that and you say, okay, we're going into the SEC in the next couple of years, and we're hanging with the number 1 team in the country already. I don't know if you can continue to do that or not, but if I'm a Texas fan, I'm definitely like having a whole bunch of confidence, especially because of what happened elsewhere in the country throughout the day.
Well, listen, I said back in March, I said Texas is going to get blown out by Alabama in week 2, and that'll be the last game they lose all year. And I was saying it for the shock value. I was saying it to put it out there, and I was saying it because I kind of believed it. And now I kind of believe it a lot. Like Texas, if they can get Ewers back, if Hudson Card can hold this thing where it needs to be, and they get Ewers back in the next 3 or 4 weeks before the schedule really ramps up on them, they're going to be a tough out in the Big 12, man. They're going to be a tough out. You got Overshown on that defense. You've got some talented transfers on that defense. I mean, they have Bryce Young. And I'll tell you another thing about Alabama. Jahmyr Gibbs I don't think he's to the level of the running backs they've had over the last 10, 15 years. I think he's fine. I
love Jack's reaction. I don't know what Jack's.
Oh, I thought he was. I mean,
I think he's pretty good. I just don't think he's
Bryce Young was this.
And I don't, and this is a bigger deal. I certainly don't think their receiver group is near where it's been over the last 3 or 4 years. And that's the bigger deal.
Yeah, I would say Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, he had 74 yards receiving, 22 yards on the ground. Definitely not. I mean, Chase McClellan was obviously he had the long run, but he was the main running back. But Jahmyr Gibbs, I thought, looked outside of Bryce Young. He was the best player on the field today for Alabama. Will Anderson had his moments, but he also had his bozo moments. There was times that it was like, Will, I get that you're the best player in the league, but that doesn't mean you can just like do whatever you want. He had an absolutely like brain dead personal foul, and I think it was the second quarter or whatnot. But a guy that I don't even know where he was today was Jermaine Burton. Like, why did you leave Georgia? If you're gonna, like, if I was a Georgia fan, I'd be like, the grass isn't always greener, dude. You just won a national championship and you left.
Yeah.
For what? Right. For what? To disappear in an offense. Okay, it's only week 2, but we have to overreact to it.
We know for what. We know for what. It was to go catch balls from Bryce Young instead of Stetson Bennett, and that might not have.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, we know the reason, but if you're not going to do it. And I think that, another thing with Texas is that we talked a lot about this, and not just us, just anybody that was breaking down this game, was, can this defense, who has not been great over the last few years, and, we like to make fun of the Big 12 defenses, which obviously is a narrative that, is kind of gone right now as it is. But I mean, that defense stepped up in so many different ways. And it was like, that makes the Heisman Trophy winner and this super powerful offense not look great at times. And then on the flip side, Texas offensive line, they stood where they needed to. And like, just everything that they were questioned about going into this game, they stood the test. They lost, but they still stood the test.
Last year, they had a culture problem where he was dealing with idiots and he was dealing with players not playing hard. I think so far, 2 games through year 2, you can tell the culture has changed dramatically at Texas, in my opinion. So we're going to move off that game. But one more question
for that. I think it's maybe for Jack. I think he's the only one who saw the full game. Is this more into, like, wrapping up, clarifying? Would we say this is more Alabama fault for, like, underwhelming versus Texas being better, or is it like a meet in the middle?
I think it's Texas. I think, like I said, I think everything about today was about Texas.
I agree.
And Alabama certainly didn't play their best game, and they've shown to do that before. But if you ask a lot of people, if you ask 100 people 2 weeks ago, is Alabama's best game required to beat Texas? I think they would have said no.
I would have said no, and I'll let Jack finish it because he'll have way less of an unbiased, or he'll have an unbiased opinion. I will say, and it pains me to say, but coming from where I was going into this game, it says way more about Texas and how much better they are and how impressive they were today than Alabama. And that's not something I would just throw out there unless I meant it.
Jack,
I saw an incredibly vulnerable Alabama team today with an offense that looked borderline lost at times against a defense that is not very good. Alabama, I know it's hard to take out things, but outside of a run from Jace McClellan, which was I forgot the guy's name, the middle linebacker on Texas. If he read it right, he would have stopped him. Outside of that, there was no explosion from Alabama. Bryce Young had to go, like, I mean, for lack of a cringier word, sicko mode, to make sure that they won the game. And it wasn't throwing the ball. All the big plays that he made were on the ground. I'm concerned about Alabama out from the point that we thought they were untouchable.
To that end, their road games aren't that easy. They got to go to Arkansas, and Arkansas is buttoned up as a program too. Like, they're not going to make a lot of mistakes. They got to go to Tennessee. Tennessee's going to score points. Like, they got some road games that are going to be trippy. And if LSU can get their shit together, they got to go to LSU. One last thing. Texas is unranked. Alabama was number 1. Texas lost the game. Is Texas ranked on Monday? Almost certainly, yes?
Yes, and I think they would have been regardless of anything else, especially now with all the different things that happened today and all the different pieces that have fallen. Absolutely.
Speaking of the
Georgia will be 1.
I don't know about that. We'll see. I think it'll be a tight decision. But
they should be.
Maybe. Hold on. Georgia was 50-point favorites and won by 33. They were fine. They did everything they needed to do. So let's put that conversation to the side for a minute, because we got a lot of conversations to have. Let's move on from that game. One more take from that game to put it to the rest of college football. And this is a question to you guys. So far through the first 2 weeks, remember last week you had Ohio State, who everybody thought was one of the 2 best teams in the country. They struggled against Notre Dame. Well, we see what Notre Dame is. Alabama.
Only drink 1 tea today.
Alabama struggles with Florida, with Texas today. Is the gap between the elites and everybody else not as wide as we thought it was?
That's what I took away from Alabama's performance. I tweeted out from the account, I think it was when you guys were live, but I was like Alabama looks ... beatable.
And Ohio State looked beatable last week. One little stat to throw at you. I believe 8 unranked teams played ranked teams today. All 8 unranked teams covered the spread. That's just weird.
There was a Barstool Sportsbook graphic that came out that was what you're saying, but just it was like, especially to see like the top 10 spreads that weren't covered and just all the red. And it was just what it said to me. And I think to answer your question, it is early. So it's week 2. And I know we said it a little bit after week 1, and maybe it's wishful thinking from like a chaos standpoint, but this has 2007 season written all over it to me, because like you can sit here and you can say, okay, we think Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, whoever it is, should be ranked where they are. But then doing college football math, which I know people don't like to do, but even through 2 weeks or, 2.5 weeks, if you want to count week 0, but who's counting week 0 at this point? Because Nebraska is just garbage. But it's like you can't really pick out and be like, okay, these are the teams that have proven that they are the best in the country, other than Alabama barely winning today.
Well, I think Georgia and Michigan are the 2 teams that have each time they've gone out,
Yes.
they have played the way they're supposed to play. Now, Michigan might be able to throw that away because their non-conference is so fucking garbage and cowardly. Georgia and Michigan, though, are the 2 teams that have really, really, really handled business without any hiccups whatsoever.
And you can't take it away from Michigan. I mean, yes, they're not.
I think you can. I think you can just put it incomplete on them. Like their non-conference is shameful.
It is shameful, and it's going to continue to be shameful. But then you look at, Georgia and just how they just absolutely killed Oregon. And it's like, okay, well, how good really is Oregon? But I think that to answer your question, I think the gap looks like it's a lot closer. I think it's also just setting us up for so much chaos, not just because of what's happening at the very top, just what's happening everywhere and where those things are getting set up.
I can't believe it is 12:07 on the East Coast, and I'm sweating out a game against Arizona in the desert. And
not only, Brandon, is it 12:07 and you're sweating out a game, there's 13 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah. Like I'm going to do this. We're going to do this entire podcast, and I'm going to watch the second half of a football game after it.
Oh, easily.
Would you rather be Dan sweating his game of the year right now?
He's not sweating that game of the year.
Yeah, I was saying, he's live on Twitter now. I think it's
yeah, that game of the year is toast.
They ended up scoring 16 points in the first half, so it's possible that they could get whoever's listening will know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Kayce, we were in Iowa. Well, we sure were looking good. Did you see that?
I love that every year we get bigger and bigger. This year we've gotten so big that we have a wardrobe sponsor.
We are dressed. We are dressed in our Robacks.
They bring us the hangers of the fresh Robacks every week. Today or yesterday or whatever the day it is, I got a nice camo, like a little light hoodie. I had a quarter zip that was like blue and pink. I know that they have the polos, like Dave had his Michigan custom a few weeks ago. The Roback family is really hooking us up.
They have the best hoodies in the world. They're lightweight. They're comfortable. They breathe. They're fantastic. They're not like a heavy hoodie that just chokes you out. They got the quarter zips, the polos. Their t-shirts are fantastic. If I didn't have male titties, I would be able to rock them a little bit better, but I'm working on it. Roback is the best. And Jack, where can we get the Roback?
Yeah, if you guys want to look just like Brandon and Kayce on the College Football Show, you can head over to roback.com and use the code ROUGH, ROUGH. And that's not rough design or rough clothing. That's for unnecessary roughness. Rough. Use the code ROUGH on roback.com for 20% off your first purchase through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all polos, quarter zips, and hoodies with the code ROUGH. Make sure to check them out now, and you'll be ready for the season, especially with fall coming up.
Rough. So let's move on. And I guess we just go to the teams that I think got the big reality check, because I call this reality check Saturday, and it came a little earlier for these teams than normal. And Kayce, I'm sorry, your team's going to be in this section, but I think the team that embodies this section the most, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
I disagree.
Why?
I think A&M's loss today is more embarrassing than what happened in Notre Dame.
I think we'll get to that in a second. I'll tell you
Okay.
why that's not the case. I
Okay.
know from your standpoint why it feels that way, but I'll tell you why it's not the case.
Oh, I think I know why it's that way, but go ahead.
Notre
continue.
Dame now is in an interesting situation because they come out last week and they got so much credit for just not getting embarrassed. They lose 21-10, but offensively they were not very good. And we just assumed, oh my God, look how good Ohio State's defense is. They're so good. They're so great. I said on the last show, let's wait a minute now. They couldn't have got that good that fast. So Notre Dame comes out and gets beat by Marshall at home. I didn't say like Virginia Tech. I didn't say BYU. I didn't say any like Power 5 team. Marshall's Sun Belt. We'll get to the Sun Belt later.
Sun Belt.
What salad days for the Sun Belt, but Marshall not really considered a great Sun Belt team. They go into South Bend and beat Notre Dame, and that's embarrassing enough. But Marcus Freeman, the golden boy, he's coached 3 games. He hasn't won one yet. And you lose the bowl game to Oklahoma State, fine, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Not your team. You're just then you lose to Ohio State on the road, fine, whatever. You did good, coach. You didn't get us embarrassed. You lose to Marshall at home as 20-point favorites or whatever it was. Something doesn't smell right in South Bend.
I'm trying not to combine these 2 games because we need to talk about each game separately. But for me, it's like, yes, Marcus Freeman, he's 0-3, but he's 0-3. He's coached as a head coach 3 total games for Notre Dame. And I completely agree with you with the offense. I said the same thing, when we on the last episode, I said, who before the Ohio State Notre Dame game was like, man, this Notre Dame offense is crazy. So then all of a sudden we give credit to Ohio State's defense. It's like, that was not the narrative that we had going into it. So I agree with you. Marshall's defense forcing the 3 turnovers that they did. Oh no, don't look at it. Don't look at it.
Just go.
And I need to stop looking with my eyeballs because it is
Go.
okay.
Go.
Okay. Don't you fucking yell at me. I'm in a
Don't
mood.
you holler at her. Don't you holler at her.
Don't
Don't
you?
So Jack, tell her not to holler at me about hollering at her.
Let's keep it rolling.
Okay.
Let's keep this podcast going.
For Marcus Freeman hire, for like an internal hire, you look at Clemson with their OCDC. Obviously, it's only 3 games. I know I'm jumping the gun. Does this go to state with like if there's an issue with hiring internally versus bringing new blood that has different experiences into a program?
I think it's case by case. I think it's definitely case by case basis. But Marcus Freeman, like he was a popular hire with everybody involved with Notre Dame too, right? Like
that video went viral.
There was nobody involved with Notre Dame that was like, "Oh, fuck this guy! I can't believe we did this." Yes, Jack.
Now, I don't know if this is always true, and it's something that I fall accustomed to, but we got to stop listening. Players don't know who's a good coach. They just don't. They know who their friends are, and administrators. And I'm not saying this that he's going to be Marcus Freeman is going. I almost said Marcus Kelly, but Marcus Freeman is going to be a bad hire when we look at it in 3 years. But sometimes, man, player coaches don't work. I would even say for the most part, they don't work. So this idea that's like, oh, look at the players' reaction. Okay.
So
no,
go ahead.
I agree. And I know that we can't compare college to NFL, but there is a reason that it's like, well, Bill Belichick's the principal, and then, guys leave and they're like, oh, look, we can be ourselves. And like, they're not winning Super Bowls. But I think that when Marcus Freeman, like give him first of all, a whole year. That's my thing. It's like I was giving Notre Dame fans shit today, which I love when they're like, well, how's A&M doing? Well, we'll get to that. But also like, you can still separate it. But losing the bowl game last year, fine. Like that happens a lot with new head coaches, even if they are internal hires, fine, whatever. Losing to Ohio State, we'll see what that looks like down the road, but they didn't get embarrassed. They didn't get their asses kicked. It was a pretty good game per se, because of the way the score was and also the way that people thought. Today was embarrassing for Notre Dame. There's absolutely no doubt about that. It's still only his 3rd game as head coach. So I'm not ready to say like Marcus Freeman wasn't a good hire. I have no idea. He's
but the goodwill's gone, Kayce. You can't ever lose to Marshall at home as Notre Dame's coach.
You can't. It's
No, you
unacceptable.
can't. You
Unacceptable.
can't, but I don't think that it's like they should get rid of him for it.
No. Nobody's saying that.
Oh yeah. I agree.
But the honeymoon's over.
I do. I mean, yes, and it should be. But I do, as like a not, if I was a Notre Dame fan right now, I would be trust me, I would be incredibly livid. But from like an outside looking in, like it's a humiliating loss. They in no world should Notre Dame, especially, being fifth in the country going into the season, being where they have been in the college football playoff over the last couple of years, lose to Marshall. However, it is still only 3 games.
Yeah, but that third one's a fucking doozy, man. All right, now I have a larger thread here to talk about with these 4 games in particular. Marshall 26, Notre Dame 21, App State 17, Texas A&M 14, Washington State 17, Wisconsin 14, and Iowa State 10, Iowa 7. You're only as good as your offense. And these teams that are trying to hold together their program with a middling or mediocre offense, who try to lean on their defense, like A&M is doing, putting Haynes King at quarterback, like Notre Dame's doing, like Iowa's done the last 20 years, and like Wisconsin's doing, continuing the Graham Mertz and the same offense they've run for the last 10, 15 years. These teams have caught up to you, and you are vulnerable if you can't score points. The old way of doing things it doesn't work anymore. And that's like A&M has better athletes than App State. A&M has better recruits than App State. App State didn't have a shitty quarterback. And that's kind of what Texas A&M.
I'm starting to get mad at you right now because you're teasing me. What you've done, man.
All right, rip the Band-Aid off. Fine, rip the Band-Aid off. You guys came in, you're ranked number 6 in the country for no fucking reason, and App State embarrassed you at home.
Thank you. Like, I don't know why we didn't start the podcast with this. I would like it on record, Jack, and you can, I hope you agree with me that if this happened to Mississippi State, we would have let Brandon go off for 20 minutes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but Alabama and Texas played an amazing game today. We had to start with that.
I'm not saying that A&M is more important. I'm just saying that I've been sitting on these.
No, I get it. I get both sides. But
I've just
go off. He keeps
teasing me. He keeps teasing me. And he's like, actually, let's start about this. This was so humiliating for Texas A&M, everything about it. And the reason that I think it's more embarrassing what happened to my team today than what happened to Notre Dame, which don't get me wrong, you cannot lose to Marshall, is because Jimbo Fisher was paid $75 million to leave Florida State to come take A&M to the next level. Kevin Sumlin could not get things correct, especially in November. The wheels would fall off the bus. I get that. He still won games at A&M. They were very mediocre and in the middle, but it's not like he was having losing seasons. You go out and you pay a guy who's this offensive guru, this quarterback whisperer, and you bring him in for $75 million, and he sits up on the podium and says all the right things every single offseason. And even after this game, you lost to App State at home. He's sitting there like, well, I think we still have a really great football team. We just need to play better and do things right. Can you just reality check yourself for a second, Jimbo? We don't want to hear your excuses anymore. That's all it is you're saying the right things in front of the podium, and then you can't get it done on the field. And last week, when they beat Sam Houston State 31-0, what did I say? I sat there and I was like, this offense sucks. This offense looks putrid. Haynes King does not know what he's doing. And I was singing his praises coming into this game. Why did they not try anybody else at quarterback at halftime? Why? He's an offensive guru. He's a quarterback whisperer. You saw enough. Max Johnson transfers from LSU. You've got a 5-star freshman who apparently is the next coming of Jesus Christ, and literally nothing was changed. He was out-coached. They were out-planned. The offense, Haynes King had 97 total yards. The defense looked awful. There is nothing that I want to hear Jimbo Fisher say about that game that could possibly be an excuse. It is humiliating, and that's all there is to say. And anybody who makes an excuse is full of shit.
The thing about the quarterback situation is if you go out and get a Max Johnson who beat A&M last year and who had 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and was efficient and can play in the SEC, if you go out and get him, or if you go out and get a 5-star, why then do you keep Haynes King in the driver's seat when the car's not going anywhere? I don't understand.
That's my point.
Throw the keys to somebody else. Like if I would say do it in the first quarter, but if you're in the third quarter and you're in a 14-14 game, the only way you can score is a 98-yard kickoff return. Something's wrong. You've got too many good receivers, too many good offensive linemen, too many good running backs, too many good players to continually let them fail because your quarterback can't throw the ball.
That's why I'm so pissed off, because it's like, I've sat here on this podcast, I've sat on social media, I've sat on the Barstool College Football Show, and I keep saying this man won a national title at Florida State. Yes, he had Jameis Winston, but surely like paying this man all this money with the #1 recruiting class, like it's going to come to fruition. You can't even make the most obvious switch on the planet that every, armchair quarterback, for lack of better terms, is sitting there like, just give somebody else a chance. Like, I feel bad for A-Chain. Like, that man is the only one that should have been allowed to get a meal after the game. Like, he at least showed up, but there was no adjustment whatsoever. And this is a coach that, again, is like the word mastermind gets thrown around, and it's just bullshit at this point. But then to sit up there, what irritated me even more after the game was when he says, well, things aren't ever as bad as they seem. Excuse me, you had the offseason, you won the offseason, the #1 overall recruiting class. And yes, I get that they're young. We're talking about App State. And yes, they're a good Sun Belt team. It's still App State. You're the 6th team in the country, and you're playing at home in front of 100,000 people. And you're going to tell me it's not as bad as it seems? No, it's pretty bad, Jimbo. It's pretty bad.
All right, let's be honest about preseason rankings and what they are. They are guesses. They're guesses based on information we've had in the past. I still don't understand the information that led anybody to believe Notre Dame was the 5th ranked team in the country and A&M was the 6th ranked team in the country. I thought coming into this year, A&M was the 8-4 team again this year, and the big leap would come in 2023. I still believe the big leap's coming in 2023.
Who would you put above them?
That's the key, because we were talking earlier, like the top 4, you can put Clemson at 4 based on their track record. I guess in hindsight,
Michigan
probably. Michigan. Oklahoma is somebody,
but Oklahoma
good for a half, but then they got it right. The big difference in not looking good for a half and then getting right.
I mean, they scored 7. Yeah, I mean, they only scored 33 points on Kent State. Like, Washington scored 52 on them last week.
Yeah, but Clemson was awful in the first half against Georgia Tech, and then they got right. I don't blame a team for starting slow and then finishing strong. I blame a team like A&M for being 6th in the country and then starting slow and finishing slow. Like, there was never like I said, Texas and Alabama didn't seem fluky. Like, this wasn't fluky. App State just stood in there and thumped them.
And Jack, this is where, and I know, again, I'm looking at this in a vacuum, so I have to realize that my bias is going to come through. But this is why sometimes when I look at recruiting rankings, they piss me off. Now, I know they're freshmen, but you talk about like a star-filled defensive line. That's all you hear. Look at all these stars that Jimbo Fisher has gone out and gotten. And you had an App State offense that blew that thing up time and time again. And I know the defense was on the field forever. I think it was like 41 minutes. Like, the offense had 9 total first downs. So I get the defense was out there forever and it's hot as shit, whatever excuse you want to have. Like, when you just look at the talent on these rosters and you look at the stars that these recruiting guys put out there, like, A&M embarrassed itself with a star-studded offensive line, defensive line, everything across the board. So it's like, why am I going to get excited about recruiting rankings when App State can just come in and prove they're a complete fluke?
Well, you say all that stuff, Kayce, but bottom line is if you don't get the quarterback right, then the team's not going to be right. And
he was a huge problem, gigantic problem. He was not the only problem today.
I mean, I thought the defense was pretty good today. I watched a lot of it, and I don't know if it was as good as it could have been. That being said, when it comes back to the recruiting rankings discussion, I mean, we play the games for a reason, of course, and I know you're not saying that we don't, but like, if every time the most talented team won, that would be pretty like lame. And this goes to show that like it sometimes does fall apart. But if I was an A&M fan, I would feel exactly like you. How can I be excited about a #1 class when we can't even beat App State? I mean, I get it. Like, yeah.
And the defense, and there were definitely times where the defense played well. And again, they were on the field forever. The bigger thing for the defense with me was that they would do the right things, and they would sack the quarterback, and they would put a lot of pressure on him, and there would be, a blown up route or whatever. But then they would give up 11, 12 yards. Then they would give up a big, not a gigantic play, but just enough for App State to continue to move the ball down the field. And then when the offense would get the ball, they couldn't do shit. So at the end of the day, I blame Jimbo Fisher. Like, that is 100% the case. And, I know that I see this, and it doesn't happen just with A&M. It happens with any fan base, that it's like, they're like, well, if they start winning, you're going to be back on it. Well, yeah, no shit. Of course I am. But if you can't sit, and I assume Notre Dame fans are doing the same thing, Nebraska fans, whoever it is, like, if you can't sit and hold a coach accountable for what they're doing, then why are you a fan? Like, I'm not going to sit and be like, well, it's just week 2. No, you had no business losing to App State at home. You embarrassed yourself doing so. And then now App State is having the time of their lives. Did you see those videos? That looked awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah.
I want to go. Like,
Yeah.
I want to go and just be like, listen, like, I'm like, can I be a part of your squad tonight? Like, they should be celebrating. Like, A&M was overrated. A&M shouldn't have been in that position, but it was a telltale sign that Haynes King was maybe not the guy last week. The fact Jimbo didn't even try to make an adjustment and is still saying like, well, we got to look at it. No, you don't. No, you don't.
All right. So
what's the heat meter for a Jimbo? Would you say? Like,
He's
obviously
not-
it's not gonna be this year, but I'm saying, like, we 8-4, you had the 4 recruiting classes. Like, where does results, like, obviously you're gonna have a few more years. Like, where do you see that?
I mean, first of all, 8-4 right now feels like it would be a good season.
Oh yeah, you're not going 8-4.
That's how bad I feel right now. Like,
By the way, can I tell you something, Kayce?
What?
You ready? You're beating Miami next week, so get ready for that.
And then it's going to be like mind pretzel. And, but it's funny. I had a Miami fan tweet at me the most perfect thing. He was like, well, now this puts us in a bad position, because if you go in and you lose to A&M, then it's like, well, you lost to A&M, who just lost to App State. But if you go in and beat them, it's like, well, they did just lose to App State. It's kind of a lose-lose for Miami. But I mean, Jimbo's not on the hot seat. Like, from a fan, like, opinion standpoint,
Yeah,
people are definitely going to be pissed. But 8-4 sounds great to me right now. That sounds lovely.
All right, just an update from any other fan base. We've entered the Mike Leach firing zone.
You said you weren't going to do that.
We've entered the Mike Leach firing zone. I can't help when the firing squad comes out. All right, let's move on to some other teams that disappointed themselves. When we did before the season, and we said week 2, what would be the best game, the biggest game, who would be on upset alert? I'm almost certain I said that Washington State could go in and beat Wisconsin. It's exactly what they did today. Wisconsin's been on a tipping point for a couple of years now, where their offensive line hasn't been nearly as good as it was for decades. Their running back's good, but they were trying to reinvent the wheel with a quarterback that was a 5-star, just not very good. And their defense, to me, isn't as elite as it was. This was bound to happen. I don't think Wisconsin's a very good football team.
You got a long night, buddy.
I don't think Wisconsin's a very good football team this year, and they got embarrassed. And it's probably the first. That's a very steady program. They don't get embarrassed a lot. They'll get beat by the elite teams, and they'll kill the bad teams. But they got embarrassed by Washington State, who, by the way, is a live dog out there in the Pac-12. I don't think they can win it, but they're going to make life hell for a lot of teams. Now we move on to.
Well, you said this, and it's true. Like the Graham Mertz project. Like I guess the experiment, whatever you want to say, like that, it has to be over.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not going to be over because they don't have anybody else.
Well, right, but I'm saying, like, just even like the hope. It's like I feel like each time it was like, well, give them another chance. Like there's no chance now,
and they just don't have any weapons for him. And so we move on to, of course, Iowa. Yeah, it's not a weapon for the quarterback though. That's fair. Just yeah. We move on to Iowa. You're frustrated. I bet Notre Dame fans are frustrated. And we went out there to these fucking idiots today, and they're an angry fan base. They got to be the most frustrated fans in the country, because they win, but then they put forth, if they just had an offense, if they just had any semblance of an offense, not even a good one, if they had an average offense, but their coach, his son calls the plays, and they are the worst offense in America. It's got to suck to watch that every week.
I'm a bad person to ask. And I feel like in a few hours, you may be a bad person to ask. I don't feel like I can say they're the most frustrated fans in the country right now because they also weren't projected to be very good.
We have to talk about other teams too, Kayce.
I am going to talk about them, but I can't say they're the most frustrated. No. We're moving on, but I don't think they're the most frustrated. But again, you're right. Like even just the jokes that were made about the way that they scored 7 points last week. And, we laughed on this podcast and said, oh, just do something, Iowa, just do something. And they could have done nothing today and still won a rivalry game. And they would have taken that to the next week and be like, well, whatever, we beat Iowa State. We always beat Iowa State. I mean, we talked about that on the show today. Like no matter how bad they are, they still beat Iowa State. Now you look at it and you say, okay, do something to be interesting. And now you've lost to Iowa State. You're absolutely right. They should be frustrated and they're angry. But how long can you be a fan of a team that is so boring to watch and now is losing? Like it's not like fine, low scoring games aren't always boring. Like, yeah, you want to see points, whatever. But the way that Iowa wins these games, gross. And now they just lost to their rival in week 2. What's there to be excited about?
Yeah, they've got to change. I mean, I don't know if it leads to the end of the Kirk Ferentz thing at Iowa, because they have to change their offense. They have to change their offensive coaching staff. They have to, or they're not going to win. So is he willing to do that? Can he fire his son? Because if he can't, the Ferentz era is going to be over very soon.
Well, you know what's going to happen here, right?
What's going to happen?
The perfect and most meme ending to this is Iowa wins the West again. I think it's the West, right?
Yeah.
Because that division looks like it's really bad, man.
Garbage. Yeah.
Because Nebraska, which we'll get to, lost. Wisconsin lost. Iowa lost. Northwestern lost to Duke.
Yes.
I'm
Illinois,
worried about that game now.
what is Illinois? Is Illinois or are they in the other?
So it's Minnesota. Minnesota's the team.
Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah.
Minnesota and Purdue are the only two that can really salvage that thing, I think. Well, Wisconsin can salvage it, but listen, that Big Ten West looks garbage right now. And I just don't see, when Iowa has to go away from home, like they go to Columbus later this year. Like I just they can't score any points.
They can't score, and it, like I said, it's just a gross brand of football. But it's like at this point, it's like, do you want to win that division? Like, yeah, obviously you want to because you want to win it on paper, but you're just a lame duck to go into Indianapolis and get the shit kicked out of you, unless Minnesota or Purdue can put something together. And I think when we previewed the Big Ten, Brandon, I think both you and I had Minnesota coming out of that division, if I remember correctly. But I can't. And now that we're so close, or now that I'm closer to the Iowa situation than I was before, because I've seen that fan base, it's just like, what do you have to look forward to? Unless Kirk Ferentz like fixes things up. And I don't think he's going to fire his son. Do coaches fire their sons?
I don't
think if it becomes like we're firing you or you fire your son.
No, sometimes these guys, they don't.
Think he'd go out on it. I think he'd go out.
They go out there and sword.
Yeah, he'd go out on a shield. He would go out with his son.
Yeah,
I can't feather and kick him out.
I could be. I'm sure there's an example of like a smaller program or a smaller team that's done it, but like from like a big program name, I can't think of anybody that would just be like, all right, son, see ya, so I can keep this job. Like I feel like they go to bat and that bat might lose.
Stoops fired his brother, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brothers are different though.
Yeah, you can piss your siblings off. You can't really piss you can piss your kids off, but like that's like if you fire your kid, then it's like you have to kind of admit that you failed at teaching your kid to be as good as you. Your brother or your sister, you can just be like, well, sorry, I'm the better kid.
But again, if you fire your son, you have to go deal with his mother. And that's just going to be the worst experience you've ever had in your life. I promise you.
Thanksgivings will be fun.
You don't want that. So we've talked so far about these teams that embarrassed themselves today and didn't. So now let's talk about some teams that got some solid wins.
Let's do Nebraska.
Oh my God, Nebraska.
Yeah, you can't forget Nebraska.
I mean,
I want Kansas, West Virginia.
Yeah, but they count in the next category.
Fair.
Nebraska has to
Over.
fire Scott Frost.
It's over. It can't continue. They got Oklahoma next week. Oklahoma's going to beat them by 1,000. Georgia Southern walks in there and scores 45 points, and Nebraska took the lead late with like 3 minutes left, and there's just nothing to the Scott Frost regime. This is one of the most surprising coaching failures I can remember. It just felt so incredible when it happened. He wins the national championship at UCF, and then he goes to Nebraska, and it just never, ever, ever got close to working. And he was able to succeed by failing last year. He just didn't fail hard enough. He went 3-9 with 1-score losses. Oh, that's okay. We'll bring you back. And now it got worse.
It got worse. And I guess my question, Jack, you and I talked about it last week when we were at the gambling cave, and it's been, a narrative for everybody, but I know his buyout goes down October 1st. I feel like you got to get rid of him now. Like, I know that that's a lot of money, but like Nebraska fans, granted, they haven't been really good in a while, but they still are a great brand of football, and they have a lot of pride. You don't keep this guy after today, do you?
There's 12 farm families in Nebraska that can have that buyout by tomorrow morning. And I bet that's what they're doing right now. Go ahead, Jack.
No, Katie, I think.
What are the odds? What if you had to make make an odds that, let's say Monday or like by next Saturday, he's still the head coach, or like he's
kickoff?
Would you like?
Well, he's either fired tomorrow. He's either fired tomorrow morning, or he's going to be the coach next Saturday. That's what it is.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be.
I did a bad timeline, but I'm saying like fine, Monday morning. What would you make the odds that he's fired?
I think it's a 75% chance he's not there on Monday.
I would say 50-50. I would say 50-50.
Jack, do you base that on?
They have a big rivalry game coming up on Saturday, and you can be like, this is your last chance. Like, you have to win it.
What if he wins it?
If he wins it, it complicates things, but he's not going to win it. So that's just crazy. Unless he does win it, that'd be awesome. But
you had that take earlier.
Yeah, I had it all summer. I thought, because I believed they were going to be better. I believed they were going to be decent. And they're just garbage. They're just fucking
so bad.
They're my most underrated
team. Maybe I'm being heartless. You cannot keep that guy. You can't.
Where does the Scott Frost go when he fails at his alma mater? Like
Saban.
No. He'll get a G5 job.
He goes back to the UCF kind of job. Yeah, he gets like USF or FIU.
Look at App State.
Yeah, I don't think App State. I think App State would see right through his ass. We focused on the bad. Let's focus on the good, because Florida was the talk of the town last week, right? Florida jumped up from unranked to number 12 because they beat Utah. Kentucky, meanwhile, all summer, we talked about Levis. All summer, we know Kentucky's a good program with a good team. They walked into Florida and just thumped them right on the fucking skull. Made Anthony Richardson look like one of the worst players in the country. Jack, I want to start with you on this. We love to overreact and we love to jump the gun. Anthony Richardson looked horrible tonight.
Well, he did this last year. He did this last year all the time. He would look amazing and then he would look awful. And it's just, he goes, it's like a yo-yo. He looked like he couldn't throw the ball tonight. People were saying he was a Heisman candidate coming in this game, and rightfully so, but he just fell apart.
It might be the second half of tonight.
Wow, 14 for 35, 143 yards, 2 interceptions. That's brutal.
The second half of tonight is one of the worst performances by a quarterback I've ever seen. And Kentucky was interesting because the first half it was all Will Levis and he kept them in the game. Second half, Will Levis didn't do much of anything, but their offensive line, their running backs figured something out and dominated physically. The offensive line running backs were awful in the first half. And then Stoops, God damn it, Stoops can coach. He's now the all-time wins leader at Kentucky over Bear Bryant. Kentucky that was a put your nuts on the table type win. They went into the swamp. Utah couldn't do it. Kentucky did it. And now Kentucky or Tennessee for that number 2 spot in the East is going to be a hell of a race.
It's going to be a lot of fun too. And we need to talk about Tennessee too, because that game there were so many good games today. I think
Kentucky's a better football team than Tennessee.
I think that, and again, it's only week 2. So it's like, how many, takes do we want to stand by or take back? It's like, for me, I obviously thus far, like Will Levis is like, he should get a lot more credit than I gave him. But I think that the big thing with Anthony Richardson, and we put him as the player of the week, and clearly, you know, we talk about the Heisman, and I don't know if it was you or Jack, one of you said it. It's like, he has like a really high ceiling and a really low floor. We said it in the middle of last week, and we saw that. And what to me it showed was, you know how last year, every time Emory Jones would struggle, and it was like, where's Anthony Richardson? Where's Anthony Richardson? And it was like, we kept saying like, why is he not playing? Like, this guy's obviously really good. And then he goes out and beats Utah the way that he played. It's like, well, clearly Dan Mullen just didn't know what he was doing. He clearly saw this Anthony Richardson more than we did in week one. We saw it last year, and we just completely forgot about it last week. Kentucky's a hell of a football team. And I don't know. I don't think Anthony Richardson as bad as we saw today. He's clearly not as good as we saw last week. I think he'll even out. But to go from beating the 7th team in the country to losing the way that they did to Kentucky at home in the beloved swamp, reality check.
Yeah, no, see, here's the weird part about that. If in August or if in July I had offered a Florida fan, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you, you can split Kentucky and Utah to start the season. You're going to take that? 100% of them would have taken it. Every single one of them would have taken it, because that takes 0-2 off the table. Now we find out where they go, because they were great last week and awful tonight. Anthony Richardson wasn't good, but they're not very good around Anthony Richardson either. Like they don't really have much. They got some good running backs, but they don't have anything that scares you. They got a good defensive line, some good pass rushers, but the back end of their defense is bad. And it's interesting to see where they go from here. It's either what they were last week and they finished 9-3, or it's what they were this week and they finished 6-6. Both are on the table. And
also, if you would have asked Florida fans if they did split those two games and they could pick which one, majority, and I would say 98% majority would say, I'd rather lose to Utah and beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, and the 2% that wouldn't say that weren't really thinking it through. They were looking at like the top 10 ranking. So like that's great. They split it, but the way they split it, you can't be excited about.
Kentucky will tell you how tough you are as a football team real quick. Kentucky fell behind 16-7, and they were making mistake after mistake after mistake. And then something happened in the locker room. They just started running the ball and mauling them at the line of scrimmage. They're just a tougher team. Stoops is one hell of a coach.
The interception before half was the big.
Oh my goodness!
The big, and that was. I mean, we just talked about Anthony Richardson, but that was a big moment and made it 16-14 or 16-13.5 because they missed the extra point. But that was huge, and I thought Will Levis, a lot of people, I'm sure Brandon, people are hitting you up saying like, oh, Will Levis, what do you think of him now? I thought he played okay. I thought he played great, not pretty good in the first half, but the second half, it was not him at all. It was that defense and the rushing attack for sure.
Yeah, he was Will Levis. Like, he had that one throw, the touchdown, the 60-yard touchdown, which shows you why people think he's going to be a first-round draft pick. He threw it 63 yards on a dime and let his receiver go make a play, and it was one of the prettiest touchdowns you'll see. And then he just didn't do much else. He just didn't do much else, but they didn't need him to. So that's the conundrum of Will Levis.
He didn't make any mistakes. He threw one interception. I'm blanking on what it was. That
wasn't his fault. The blitz pickup missed the blitz.
Yeah, so I mean, he did enough to win, and Kentucky's a very interesting team.
It's an interesting team.
God, yes.
USC Trojans. Caleb Williams is on that Heisman stuff early. Like, he's putting up gigantic numbers. He's not making mistakes. They're scoring points. I know they kind of let Stanford back in the game tonight, but they were up big and were never really a threat to lose with Utah.
Now, USC was really impressive to me from whenever they had the ball. They just were like, oh, they're scoring soon.
And him and Jordan Addison have hooked up. I mean, they're
my God,
they're rolling.
Beautiful.
And it's just like, I mean, I know they had it at Stanford, but it was just like I was watching an Oklahoma game again, where some guy ran down the field, the future NFL pick, and a quarterback from Lincoln Riley just threw the ball up in the air, and the guy ran underneath it. I think Lincoln Riley's This is kind of like a Mel Tucker-esque transfer situation. He really put together a really nice team for USC. That's all around pretty good. Travis Dye looks good. I think their defense is vulnerable though, because that game could have been a lot closer if Stanford converted. They got down to inside the 10 twice in the first half and didn't score. So it will be up in the air, but they look good.
They look good. And and again, it's, the first two games, it's Rice and Stanford. Now Stanford, again, it is, it's a conference game. Stanford is a competent football team, but this is why, so many people that were on the side of, well, why are you, not just us, just anybody, why are you so high on USC? Have you seen what they've done? Have you seen this? Like, why are you ranking them where you're ranking them? What do you think they're going to be able to do? It's like, you can just look at what they were putting together and what Lincoln Riley was doing by getting those types of guys. It's like, it would have to be an all-time failure. Like, talk about it for a long time for guys with that much talent to not be this good together. I mean, they were both good already. And so it'll be interesting to see. And, you mentioned Washington State with the Pac-12, but it's like, through 2 weeks, I want to overreact. But I think it's a pretty safe assumption that this is USC's conference. And if they continue to play the way that they did, and their defense does get a little bit better, because Jack, you're right, they looked vulnerable at times. Like, this is exactly the team that I thought that they were going to be, with or without the trolling of Oklahoma fans. Like, that part was fun. But USC's a fucking wagon.
I think Utah's going to be heard from, but yeah, I agree with you.
I also wouldn't. I know they looked shitty last week. Let's just see what Oregon looks like. They blew out a bad team tonight. Oregon's got BYU soon. Let's just give them a chance to acquit themselves after embarrassing themselves.
And Lincoln Riley teams have been known to slip up against average teams. Kansas State, like we can name a bunch of average TCU teams. Like
moving on from yes, Katie, I'm sorry.
I was like, my new thing, Oregon's jerseys, disgusting today. You have so many opportunities. You have some great matchup color combinations. They look like bumblebees flying around against Eastern Washington. Everything.
Speaking of BYU, are you watching that score at all?
I'm watching Mississippi State right now.
It's tied 13-13 with 5 minutes left in the third. And I'm watching your game. I completely forgot that game was being played right now. And it's just straight up tied late in the third.
The Tennessee Volunteers were in a must-win situation, in my opinion, if they wanted to matter in football this year. And they went to Pitt and they won it. They won 34-27 in overtime. My question is was this an impressive win? Like, Slovis went out early. They played against a backup quarterback and got taken to overtime, but it was on the road. And Pitt has strengths other than quarterback. Their offensive and defensive line are both very, 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 very good. Pitt has one of the best defensive lines in the country. All you had to do was win. So Tennessee goes, they're 2-0, and their schedule now opens up. How impressed are you guys with Tennessee, or is it like, we'll see?
I was so excited for Tennessee's offense this year. Like, I think last year was like electric offense, no defense.
Yeah.
I
scored 34 points, Katie. They scored 34. I mean, they didn't score 5.
They didn't cover by 5.5 points.
They covered.
I had 66. It dropped 5 points today.
Oh, the over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they covered.
They didn't score.
But Pitt didn't score. Yeah.
I know. Well, I was saying that's
Tennessee
the point.
scored enough for the over to hit if Pitt would have scored.
It didn't. Yes, if. Hendon Hooker, the offense didn't. It looked good, but it didn't look like, wow, that's lights out offense. Great.
Jack, what do you think about Tennessee?
I was just gonna pull up the stats really quick because I mean the game was an interesting one. I agree with you from the perspective of I think if Keaton played the whole game, it would have been a little bit different. But that being said, I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you go into these hostile road environments, I know Tennessee fans were like, oh, there wasn't 80,000 people. There were still 50,000 people. I'm sure it was loud. They went in there. There was times they could have fallen apart. They didn't. I think Tennessee teams of old would have lost this game.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, am I concerned a little bit? Yeah, but I think the offense was fine. The second half, though, it feels like the wheels fell off. They scored what? 0 points in the third quarter. One touchdown.
They have a tomato can next week, I believe, and then they'll come home and they'll host Florida.
Yeah.
You know, if they start 4-0 and then they're 5-0, like 5-0 is on the table, like this team can can be undefeated when Alabama comes to town.
I think that, it wasn't pretty, and clearly, like, I mean, again, they covered. So to me, it's like, not only did they win, they did their job in Vegas. I mean, I think it was 5.5 by game time anyways. But I think that in that environment, and I know, we talked a lot about the West Virginia Pitt rivalry and everything that happened with them. And we'll talk about West Virginia, I'm sure, at some point, but I think it was an impressive win just because, like, we're not talking about an Alabama or a Georgia or an Ohio State. Like, we're talking about a team that is the butt of a joke, like that they think it's 1998 still. And like, they keep trying to get over that hump. And I think Tennessee fans just want to see wins, and they want to see a good win over a team like Pitt, who was ranked, and they lost to Pitt last year when neither one of them were ranked. So if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm not like over the moon, like, oh my God, they're going to beat Georgia in the East. But I definitely take it. I'm like, yeah, this is a confidence builder because they got the win, and Hendon Hooker is still, I mean, he's playing really well. Like, was he perfect? Absolutely not. There were definitely moments where you're like, but that doesn't, as a Tennessee fan, you weren't looking for 100 out of 100. You were looking for a competent football team, and they looked competent tonight.
No, all you got to do is, you're going on the road to a ranked team, just win.
Yeah.
Don't worry about how pretty it is. And then they got it. And it opens up everything. It was a must win to be special, and special still on the table for them. We'll see if they can get it. I'll tell you who's special. Lance
JJ
Leipold.
McCarthy's starting.
Who's that?
No.
QB1. Sorry.
Yeah. Jim
Just-
Harbaugh said
just
JJ.
got announced.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll circle back to that in a minute. Lance Leipold at Kansas is a special coach. Lance Leipold goes into Kansas last year. They're the laughing stock of the country. He beats Texas in year one, almost beats Oklahoma. And now, through 2 weeks, he's 2-0, and he just went and won a road conference game. He just beat West Virginia, beat them in overtime, 55-42. Neil Brown's going to get fired at the end of this year. I think he's got too good of a team, too good of a quarterback to be 0-2 after playing Pitt and playing Kansas. Neil Brown's going to get fired. Don't worry about him. I think Lance Leipold is one of the best stories in college football, and I love the fact that Kansas is stirring now. They're off the mat a little bit.
Yeah, I like it too from a standpoint of like, and I know you tweeted this, like, they have their coach, but also like it was easy to make fun of Texas when they lost to Kansas last year. I want Kansas to be a team where, and again, like, asking them to go from being Kansas to, like, competing in the Big 12 is one thing, but I want to see a Kansas team where it's not just like, oh, they're playing Kansas, whatever, like, chalk that up as a W. I like the idea that it is going to be, a fun game, or that they could upset you. And this coach is a guy that's going to do that. Like, I think it's more fun, and I'm sure Kansas fans obviously agree with this, to be like, oh, we're playing Kansas today? Shit, like, they're on the up and up right now. They've got a coach that's finally competent, as opposed to just like, well, whatever, we're basically playing a tomato can. I like it. I think and not only do I think it's like good to watch, it's also like, as like a non-Kansas fan, it's fun to watch. Like, you don't want to watch a team just be embarrassed time and time again, unless it's your rival. Like, why do I want Kansas to be bad?
The two key things in college football: find your coach, find your quarterback. They've done both. They got a quarterback, they got a coach, and I like where they are as a program. Two other teams that have certainly found their coach.
One thing on Kansas, there's a video after the sideline, and I feel like you often see coaches like talk with their OC, then DC, and like a hug and celebrate. Players rushed Lance. Like, it was nice. Like, all the players went right to him, and they like celebrated and hugged each other, compared to all the like other coaches. I feel like most of the time you see coaches with coaches, players. I feel like Kansas has bought into him.
Yeah, and they should have. He's fantastic. The Arkansas Razorbacks are now 2-0. They beat South Carolina 44-30. And KJ Jefferson was fine, and the offense was fine. The defense was lights out. They created a lot of havoc. They had 6 sacks. They forced 5 fumbles, recovered 2 of them. They forced an interception. Arkansas's defense is very, very good. It doesn't look great because they gave up 30 points, but South Carolina was fighting from behind all day and throwing a lot. And I don't really think they gave up 30 points per se. So Arkansas is somebody to watch. They got Alabama very soon in week 5, I believe. So that's probably Alabama's next huge test coming up very soon. I think they'll pass it, but Arkansas, you gotta give them credit. They know what they're not they're not a team who's going to reinvent the wheel. They know what they are. They want to beat you up. They're physical. Their defensive line is going to get after you. Their quarterback's going to run down your throat. They're not going to try to throw for 300 yards because they don't have to. So they're well coached. What do you say about Arkansas?
I'll tell you what I say. I'm terrified of them.
Oh, they're going to.
Don't tell anybody I said that.
I don't like your chances. They're they don't match up with you guys well at all, or you don't match up with them well at all. You got to have a quarterback to have a prayer to beat that defense.
Well, that would require Jimbo to find a guy that won't fuck up the whatever.
That being said, your series of Arkansas is weird. Like
it's so weird.
Usually the team that's struggling comes out and just beats the other one.
Definitely. And I mean, I again, Arkansas fans, they only have certain weapons that they can pull out and that's it. They always talk about the all-time record. I don't care about that. But what I do care about is that in the SEC, that game is always weird. A&M has had way too many close games with them and vice versa. Obviously they beat us last year, but the way that Arkansas is playing and the way that KJ is playing versus, they obviously were good last year. And Sam Pittman, I saw you were mixing it up with people about where Sam Pittman should be, in coaching rankings. Like he's done a hell of a job. Like they should be excited. That doesn't mean their fan base isn't annoying, but boy, I'm not happy about that game coming up soon.
There's one more team I want to pull out for a big win and what they're doing. Before I'm just going to run down the scores. The Texas Tech Red Raiders beat Houston today, 33-30. And you talk about finding your coach. I think Texas Tech believes they found their guy in Joey McGuire. They had a quarterback injury last week and kept on rolling. They beat a ranked team at home today. Donovan Smith, I believe, is the backup, and he scored the game-winning touchdown. Joey McGuire's got some things.
Strong Irishman. Great last name, spelled the right way as well.
Very important.
MCGUIRE.
So
Very
quickly going through the ACC, here's your scores from the weekend. Louisville bounces back, beats UCF on the road 20-14. The North Carolina Tar Heels, the most unlikely 3-0 team in the country.
I think they're only 3-0 FBS, but
they're the most unlikely 3-0 team in the country.
Yeah, I'll take that. I can't really say much about the game. I know we let up way too many points at one point. Day on the jet back, turned around. I was like, "Congrats on the win. We have a winner." He must have a bet on it. I know he won. I know he played badly. I haven't had a chance to watch. I'm disappointed.
35-28. Go ahead.
Boston College and Jeff Hafley, a honeymoon that was looking amazing. That's now looking a bit like, I'm not saying there's going to be any change anytime soon, but definitely Phil Jerkovic and Zay Flowers came back to school, not for this, to score 10 points.
I would put Boston College on the short list of most disappointing teams through 2 games.
We should, maybe actually not. Let's not do that after 2 games. Let's do that like at the end
after
of
a month. After a month.
Yeah.
But listen, they are disappointing so far. They played Rutgers and Virginia Tech, and they blew it against Rutgers, and they were never really even in the game against Virginia Tech, who lost to Old Dominion last week. So Wake Forest, Sam Hartman, 45-25 over Vanderbilt. Duke, and one of the most surprising results of the day to me, they go on the road and beat Northwestern 31-23, and they controlled that game from the start.
I'm so unhappy about that.
The Miami Hurricanes 30, USM 7, Southern Miss 7. NC State cruises. Tennessee beats Pitt. Clemson beats Furman 35-12. Illinois kills Virginia. UVA, who scores 3 points. Jake Malasek weeps somewhere. 24-3. The Syracuse Orange, 31-7 wins last week. They beat UConn 48-14 this week. They're scoring points. I don't know how our boy Sean Tucker did, but I bet it was pretty well, Jack.
Yeah, no, I was excited for this game, but Syracuse just completely crushed UConn. Yeah, there's not a lot to say.
There's a chance Syracuse is a decent football team.
I think Syracuse, obviously it was against UConn, but like we saw what Louisville did last night, and we saw what Syracuse did to Louisville. It's college football math, but they look like a very good team. Sean Tucker, Garrett Trader, and they have a solid defense as well. That's a overperforming team without a doubt, specifically from the perspective of, I'm blanking on, but without a doubt, Syracuse looks like a very good team.
The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets beat Western Carolina 35-17, and Virginia Tech beats Boston College 27-10. In the Big 12, as it's going on, we'll talk about it Tuesday, but Baylor and BYU are in a good one right now. BYU up 7 late in the third quarter. Texas loses to Alabama 20-19. Kansas State destroys Missouri 40-12.
I mean, just a disgusting display of football.
Kansas State's a good football team. And I don't know that this is a narrative we probably need to give till the end of September too, but the SEC might be showing some cracks. They might be showing some cracks. I don't know. Well,
I mean, you can't even say might.
You can't say Mizzou for SEC.
Well, you can. They're in the SEC.
I know, but
and
it's like Vanderbilt and Mizzou.
A&M losing to App State. LSU losing last week. Iowa State 10, Iowa 7, Texas Tech aforementioned 33-30 over Houston. Kansas, we've mentioned them. Oklahoma 33-3 in a sleepwalk over Kent State. Oklahoma State 34-17 over Arizona State. TCU 59-17 winners over Texas State. Jack,
Remember,
you want to read the Big Ten?
I got you.
Wait, before you read that, remember beginning of the year where like Houston's going to be the next Cincinnati, the group of 5? That
Listen, they're not bad. They're not bad. They won in overtime last week. They lost in overtime this week. UTSA is the same way. They lost in overtime last week. They won in overtime this week. Like, there's a lot of close games out there in the Big Ten.
Duke beat Northwestern 31-23. This without it. We already said that.
Yeah.
Ohio State only beat Arkansas State by 33, 45-12, which I mean, they didn't cover, but that's one of those situations.
Jack,
I
was going to tell you a funny storyline for that. Granted, they ended up, beating them enough, but at one point when Ohio State was up by 7, Ev told us that, and granted, he's just swimming because Dave's in his face, but he was like, well, Ryan Day likes to have class. He doesn't like to beat teams up really bad. That's the reason. He was like, they're just winning because they're trying to be classy. And it was like, no, they're just not winning by enough, Ev.
Then Penn State with a budding star and Nick Singleton completely took it to Ohio 46-10. Nick Singleton, 10 carries, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sean Clifford also looked great. My boy, Sean Clifford, 19 of 27, 213 yards, 1 touchdown.
He's been upgraded. He's been upgraded to your boy.
That's my boy. I'm defending him until I die.
I love that.
Fun.
Minnesota 62-10 over Western Illinois. We talked about Wisconsin losing to Wazoo 17-14. Maryland destroyed Charlotte 56-21. Charlotte is a team that is slowly looking like one of the worst teams in the FBS. We already talked about Iowa State and Iowa. Michigan State 152-0 over Akron. Illinois destroyed Virginia. Yikes. Purdue 56-0 over Indiana State. Rutgers took care of business like they were supposed to against Wagner 66-7. We already discussed Georgia Southern over Nebraska. Michigan 56-10 over Hawaii. Hawaii
did not cover. Tough.
And then Indiana only beat Idaho 35-22.
All right. Last 2 conferences. Ole Miss destroys Central Arkansas 59-3. Auburn just somebody's got to put Brian Harsin out of his misery soon too. 24-16 over San Jose State. LSU destroys Southern 65-17, which is rude because they share Baton Rouge. Kentucky big winners. Georgia 33-0 over Stanford. If my math is right, Georgia's currently 82, opponents 3. That's pretty strong.
Pretty good.
App State 17-14 over A&M. Tennessee, Kansas State. We've mentioned all these games already. Arkansas, Alabama. And in the Pac-12, late at night, I know we have Oregon State struggling with Fresno right now. They're down 2 with 4 minutes left in the third. But Utah bounces back, destroys Southern Utah 73-7. Washington State with the big win. Colorado, another candidate for worst team in the country, loses by 31 to Air Force. Cal beats UNLV 20-14. Washington beats Portland State. Yes, Portland State, not Presbyterian, 52-6. UCLA 45, Alabama State 7. I have no idea why UCLA is playing Alabama State. UNC 41-28 over Stanford. Oklahoma State over Arizona State 34-17. And Oregon scores 70 against Eastern Washington. Now, you guys want to hand out some winners and losers of the week?
Why wouldn't we, Brandon?
Why would we not indeed, Kayce Smith? I am going to let my voice rest. So Kayce will start us off. Kayce Smith, who won the weekend?
we've already talked about this, but I have to take the Sun Belt. I think that the Sun Belt, not just for this weekend, but, I know Old Dominion, who's, beating Virginia Tech is not as impressive, but if any conference that's not in the Power Five can collectively come together, especially this early in the season, and even like make memes or jokes on like, are they the best conference in the country? Like just the statement that the Sun Belt has made is fun. It also shows the chaos that's going on and the fact that they get to be that chaotic brand right now. I think you have to give it to the Sun Belt. I mean, just all the games we've mentioned, we don't have to go back through them, but having these wins through week 2 is pretty impressive.
Yeah, the Sun Belt's just a fun collection of teams, man. It really is. It's a fun collection of brands. It's a fun collection of teams. It's a fun, if you're not a fan of a Power 5 team and you just want to enjoy college football for being college football, you do a lot worse than just following the Sun Belt on a week in, week out basis, especially when they start playing each other here soon. But the Sun Belt's got it going on right now. Congratulations. I should have worn I have a Sun Belt shirt. I should have worn my Sun Belt shirt.
Yeah, it's I mean, like Katie just mentioned, which we all know, it's like called the Fun Belt for a reason. But in reality, it's like if a conference that's fun to watch regardless is then also making things chaotic for teams like Notre Dame and like Nebraska and like A&M, what's not to love?
Jack,
unless you're a fan like me, but whatever, beside the point.
Jack Mack, who won the weekend?
Steve Sarkisian. He showed up in the moment when he needed to. And I think he had the perfect game plan to beat Alabama today. Obviously, you don't plan for one of your best players your quarterback, and a quarterback that was looking like a star to get hurt. And man, he's put together, I know it's not him, but it looks like he's recruited some pretty good defenders as well, too. So, yeah, Steve Sarkisian, big winner.
Katie Stats, who won the weekend?
I agree with Casey, but to add another one, I'm going to say the fans. I know obviously it comes at a price when it's your own team losing, but just going out, seeing upsets, seeing games that are close, they're not supposed to be close. It's seeing chaos. It's week 2. We were saying this before recording. I think this is probably the most, maybe minus like a rivalry week, something late in the, like a regular normal season that's just chaotic. Like it's fun to watch. Like you just don't know what you're going to get. And yes, I know it sucks when your team loses for that, but it's just, you don't know what you're going to get when you wake up every single Saturday. And today was especially
that's right. That's right. It's why college football is the most unpredictable and most fun sport we have in America.
Who's your winner of the week?
That's not how you say it.
Brandon Walker. Who won the week?
That's not how you say it either.
How do you say it then?
Who won the weekend?
Oh, God.
Brandon Walker. Who won the weekend?
Get that sass out of your voice.
He's gonna say himself, isn't he?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, sir.
Katie, I've never been angry at a person that I'm angry at you right now.
Oh, she just stepped all over it, didn't she?
She just stepped all over it. Just pissed all fucking over it. I don't ask for much in this life, but I had it set up.
No.
Casey, ask me again.
Oh no. You know what, Brandon? For that, I will lose the attitude. I will lose the sass. Brandon Walker, who won the weekend?
I know who lost it because Katie Stats might be getting fired off the show. Ladies and gentlemen, this should not come as a surprise to you because kings do king shit. Brandon Walker for 3 years has walked around and told you at this company that Iowa fans are pieces of shit and assholes. And you said, no, the Midwest nice. No, they wave to kids. No, they do all these things. And then I got everybody to see firsthand, up close and personal, what gigantic, colossal pieces of garbage elephant shit they are. They were throwing stuff at us. They were yelling. They were cussing. When we said, hey, don't throw it, they threw. They hit a pregnant woman in the face with a fucking full can of beer. Fuck them. That's why it's Cyclones all day long. That's why Brandon Walker took a big fat dump right in the middle of Kinnick Stadium yesterday. And Brandon Walker doesn't have a voice, but he won the weekend Fuck you, Iowa. Fuck you forever. Kayce Smith,
Beautiful, beautiful.
who lost the weekend?
I would be just an absolute dickhead if I didn't say A&M. Like, obviously, I'm going to say A&M lost the weekend. I mean, if you want to make it a bigger picture and make it not just about my team, ranked teams, Notre Dame and A&M can be lumped in, but it's tough whenever your team is ranked high up there and, you get the #1 recruiting class and you walk around calling on other fan bases delusional and you walk around and say shit like I have, and then your team loses to App State at home. Embarrassing.
Jack Mack, who lost the weekend?
Marcus Freeman. He was on a honeymoon. No one even gave him a slap on the wrist for his performance against Ohio State. They were more like, "Oh, great job, bro." And then he lost to Marshall at home. Unacceptable. That's up there for Notre Dame, losing at home to the likes of Syracuse, the likes of UConn. Unacceptable.
Katie Stats, who lost the weekend?
No, that's not how the mic works.
Me for interrupting Brandon.
Agreed. Who actually lost the weekend?
Scott Frost. Similar reason to Marcus Freeman. I think his job, if it's not done by Monday, it's signed, sealed, delivered.
I think he did lose the weekend. I think you're right, but he's about to win life. So he's about to have the greatest job in America.
It's a Coach O quote.
He's about to have the greatest job in America. Fired college football coach. Yes, Casey.
I have a question for everybody in the room. And again, you guys can tell me I'm crazy.
We're not in a room.
Well, in this room, the proverbial room that we are in. I know, like, Scott Frost, obviously, take him out of the equation. Why, when we're talking about like the honeymoon being over for Marcus Freeman, and it's only 3 games in, why is Jimbo Fisher not being held to that?
Because Marcus Freeman,
Jimbo Fisher's won an Orange Bowl. Jimbo Fisher has
no. I'm trying to. I think I got it, Jack. Jimbo Fisher's not on a honeymoon. Marcus, you have a certain grace period when you're the coach, the new coach, and there's a new car smell, and you can do no wrong. And you go out and lose to Ohio State. That's okay, coach. We tried. But you come home and you lose to Marshall with all of Notre Dame's advantages. Then the honeymoon, now it's into prove it mode. The thing about Jimbo Fisher is he has proven things at A&M. He's beaten Alabama before. Mm-hmm. He's recruited the #1 class. There's roadblocks, but he's proven things. Marcus Freeman ain't proven shit. So now that's we're fair. Not giving you the benefit of the doubt anymore. You got to go prove it. And that's where he's at. Jimbo has to stop having roadblocks because he's proven he can do things. He just keeps getting in the way.
That's fair. I'm not saying that he is like, he should be equally on a hot seat or whatever else. I can't. And I would love to eat my words. So whoever clips this right now, like, know that, add this to my rant. I would love to eat my words and be completely wrong about what Jimbo Fisher did against App State. I just Jack says, it's completely unacceptable what Marcus Freeman did. To me, it's unacceptable what Jimbo Fisher is doing. And the fact that now 8-4 is the ceiling. I think it's more embarrassing. Marcus Freeman has coached 3 games.
Do you guys have a quarterback coming in next year?
I had one come in this year.
Yeah. I mean, Connor Wegman is the future.
They're trying to pay Malachi Nelson a lot of money.
Yeah. But that's whatever. That was just an honest question of like where an unbiased person would put Jimbo Fisher.
Okay.
Brandon Walker, who lost the weekend?
Well, it's funny you should ask, Kayce Smith, because the same people who caused me to win the weekend lost the weekend by showing their ugly fat asses up to our show. And thank you for doing that. We love you. We appreciate that. And by throwing stuff at a pregnant woman's face, they proved, Iowa fans that is, that they are complete assholes and I hate them. Now, that was that's the end of that sentence. Shit list time. Spoiler alert. You probably know mine already. Kayce Smith, shit list.
Spoiler alert. I teased this at the beginning of the show. You also know mine. So what looks like you and I are going to be great bookends. Brandon Walker, I give you a lot of shit I like to talk, we like to debate. We like to give each other a hard time. One of the things that, you've told me, and we've told the story on this podcast, on the show, is why you hate Iowa fans. And you have every right to hate Iowa fans. However, there was always just something to me that was just like, it's not funny what they did to you or to your wife or to your job, but that you said what you said about just being the whitest team in the country. It was kind of funny. It was like, this is what they're holding on to. What I didn't realize is that they weren't just holding on to something small you said. They're just going to hold on to anything and everything because they are just a bad fan base. And I sat there on that show today and I went into it and thought, you know what? I'm so excited to be back on the road for the college football show. And don't get me wrong, I still am. I had a blast being back out there. And I sat up there and I pandered the shit out of the Kinnick wave. I talked about how it's the best tradition in the country, which I still think can be very true because the kids and they love it and it's great. I did everything that I could. And that fan base, not only, and I'm not, the whole fan base didn't throw beer cans and full beer cans at us and hit me and almost kill Dan and all of that. So I'm not saying the whole fan base, but what I will say is that they have been over and over assholes to you. Now I'm joining you. They were the worst fan base I have ever seen on the road of anything I've ever done. Barstool, ESPN, NBC Sports, SEC Network, go down the list. Even just as an Aggie fan of places I've gone, Iowa has the worst fan base. They don't understand that things are jokes. You go after people's family. You're throwing things that are full of liquid at a high speed, and you can't even aim correctly. Like they were trying to throw them at you. You can't even aim correctly. I'm like literally on the other side of the desk as you.
10 feet away from me.
Embarrassing display by them. Thank you for showing up. It was wonderful. And if Brandon played the heel, but now I have a personal vendetta as well. And anybody that's out there that's like, oh, like you're over exaggerating, go take a fucking look at how bad those throws were and what was happening. Had my hand not been in front of me, it might have knocked my ass out. So thank you, Iowa, for showing up. Thank you, Iowa State, for showing up. Thank you for coming out to our show. But you are on my shit list and for fucking good reason.
That was a good one.
Jack Mack, you have a shit list?
My shit list is, it's a very specific one, but it goes back to, it was like people were surprised when Quinn Ewers was good today. Guys, he was like the highest rated recruit ever. And then later in the day, people were talking to me about like Arch Manning as if he's not a good player. He was like, oh, look at who he's playing against. Guys, like these things aren't jokes. Like it's not like they're just throwing rings and like they're throwing hats up and hoping that it lands somewhere properly. Like these are people's jobs, and yeah, they miss sometimes, but they're also pretty good at what they do. So that's my shit list. Like, yeah, Quinn Ewers is really fucking good. And yeah, he didn't start at Ohio State when he was supposed to be a high school senior and CJ Stroud was at quarterback. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Katie, anything?
Nothing unique to this week comes to mind, so I'm going to stick with the continuing pattern of.
Stop you real quick.
Yeah.
I love our new I love our new background behind you guys.
I know. I tried to find the remote,
that.
and it's over there, but we're almost done. Jack was like, it's fine.
Gotta go.
If I don't have a unique one to this week, I'm going to go with a staple that everyone's going to hear a lot. Gene Chizik. I hate the man. I hate the defense. I don't understand. It got worse. Gene Chizik. Fuck you.
All right. I've already given Iowa fans guff on my winning, my losing. So my shit list is going to be incomplete. I'm going to fill my shit list in on Tuesday, just in case I got to keep a spot open for what's happening out in the desert. Okay. So with that being said, we got to let some things unfold out in Arizona, and we'll see if Brandon Walker's going to have a fresh shit list or not. We'll do.
You guys are
Thursday.
looking pretty
Yes.
good.
What's the firing status? How are we feeling?
Oh, he's fine right now. Everything's good. Everything's good. We got the ball. We're up 8. We're fine. So
I don't
We're
like
also
this.
driving.
all right, I got to go walk. Why don't you like it?
Because you came in with such passion for the winners and losers.
Yeah.
And now you're just gonna end on an incomplete shit list. Why don't you add to the
My
shit
game's
list?
not complete, Casey.
But that's fine. You're just gonna you're not gonna put them on your shit list. You're gonna just
I
leave me
can't
on
put
my
them on my
island.
shit list. What if we win by 30?
So you're saying that you might revisit
Correct.
Iowa? Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, we'll see. If I gotta put Mississippi State on shit list, I'll do it. But if I gotta just go with Iowa, I'll go with it. Plus my voice is shot. I ain't got much
Fine.
left in me.
Fine.
All right, folks. I think that's a good stopping point right there. We got week 3 coming up. We'll dive into a little bit on Tuesday. We'll hand out our weekly awards on Tuesday for Player of the Week, stuff like that. Jack and Katie, anything to add?
No, thanks for sticking around. If you finish the podcast at the end, we'll see you again on
right.
Tuesday night.
Very
Thanks for
good.
coming
Kayce
out.
Smith, anything to add?
Nope, it sure is painful for those of us out there that can't numb our pain.
What a miracle it is on the other side. All right. My name is Brandon Walker. That's Kayce Smith, Jack Mack, and Katie. That is Unnecessary Roughness.